Hi, this video is about the Power BI for data analytics. So I have previous videos on how you get started with Power BI, download the Power BI, and installing the Power BI to your computer. But of course, if you have Microsoft 365 Microsoft, you would probably already have your Power BI installed on your computer if you already installed it at that time. But if not, it's a software that is free to download. So you download it to your computer and get started. But I'm going to show some basic visualization using the Power BI on this just to get started. So here's my Power BI, and I'm going to be using this data here. Makes sense to quickly show you the kind of data I'll be using for this demonstration. Okay, so I have two data here. This is a different one. I'm going to talk about that in a different setting. So I'm going to be using this job performance analytics, and you're going to have the data, and here is the job report. But again, this job report could be much better if we use system like Power BI or pivot table. We not going to that, but I'll focus more on this particular data we have right here. So what I'm going to do is to import this data to my Power BI. I'll get started with my Power BI. It comes up this way. You could always close this, or you could even get started from here. So you basically go to get data, and from there, default goes to the Excel workbook, and you have other type of database you can collect data from. And I'm using this job performance analytics, and then I'll open that on Power BI. So I have two different data worksheets. My data I'm using for this is the job data, and I'll click on that. And then basically choose to load it. When I load it, it goes straight to the dashboard where I can do my visualization. But that's not what I want. Let's say, for example, I need to modify the data or check whether the data have error. I could do that using the transform data option here. And that takes me to this option. So right on the top here, it summarizes the variables for me, which is each of the variable you have here, for instance, direct labor cost, overhead cost, revenue, profits, direct materials, and the job category. And right here, we have the date. So one thing that I could do, if I wanted to have a kind of summary statistics for each of these types of information, like the summary statistics for the direct material, then I'll go to view. Under the view, I'll basically choose column profile and column distribution, and then choose a particular variable I want to see. So I already ticked this. So by default, yours may not be ticked. So what you need to do, you go to view, and then you go to distribution and profile. But because I've used this system in the past analytics, so that's can take for me. And there are other options here, like column quality. You could check all of those information in your data. Now, when I go to back to home, and in the home, you go to transform. So earlier we have each of these data space. Okay, right, we're back to the variable here. I just click anywhere on this box to be back to the variable. Now, I probably want more information about the direct material. When I click on that, you'll find the summary statistics right here. When I have very large data sets, let's say data sets across several years, I probably want to get the whole summary statistics like I have here. Sometimes it might omit some of those information. And one of the ways that I can include all the data sets is to click here, which is column profile based on top 1,000 rows. So basically it takes the top 1,000 rows. What if I have 1,001 or 2,000, 3,000, and so on? and I want to include all the data for my report. So the best way to do that is to click on this column profile based on 1000 rows, and then choose the, you have two options here because all my data is included in this analysis. I can see that option, right? But if I had more data, I'll probably see the other option here, which says column profile based on entire data set, which I have here anyway. Okay, so I'll click on that. Then I could also click on labor cost, then have that information right here. What I could also do is to click on overhead costs. Basically, I will have information across all the different type of data that I have here. Let's say, for instance, I am not going to analyze all the jobs. I want to analyze some of the jobs. So when I click on the draw down arrow, just on the job category, then I could choose the jobs I want to analyze. Let's say, in this case, I want to analyze the labor costs or profits for home renovation and what else? Home renovation and custom furniture. So I'll click these two and then click OK. So that is the information I want to see here. Now, when I finish with my data transformation, the next step is to go to your file and basically say close and apply. You could also apply it just to see how it looks like. Now, this is how my data look like. Let's say, for instance, you are doing this data transformation, you make some mistake, like what I did earlier. I just filter only 2 jobs to report to include in my report. Let's say I made a mistake, it should be more than that. I can easily come here and I choose this. Or maybe I don't even want to kind of choose a specific job I want to report everything. So you could come here to your right where you have apply stage and then click on this remove option here. So that will take away that command that you gave earlier in the Power BI and the data will be back to normal. So another thing is, I'll stop at this stage. I will just go to the visualization from here. There are a lot of things you could do here, like cleaning up the data summary. So let me, in this case, leave everything that I want everything to be loaded to my visualization. So, or in your case, you probably will have to choose few states in your analysis or few variables you want to focus on or location. But in this demonstration, let's leave this as is. And then go here, close and apply. And your data will be right here. It takes a few minutes or depends on the volume of your data. It could take some seconds to minutes to load. In my case, it took about, it probably took less than 30 seconds or 10 seconds to load. If you have large amount of data, you have to be patient and wait for it to load. There are times the system could also play up where your Power BI is hung. So in that case, you kind of first close it and then open it again. Right here, I have my data on the data pane on the right side. And if I click on this arrow here, and I'm going to say the kind of variable that are in my data, which I could use from the analysis. And right in this option here, you have the visualizations. In the visualization, you have multiple options here of different types of visualization you want to do. Now, let's say that I just want to find out some key information. I could use what we call CAD view. So in the past version of Power BI, there is option for multi-view CAD. In the recent or updated version, there is no multi-view CAD. So there's just one CAD, but you could add more CADs as you continue to add more variables. So it's kind of improved, but people who are used to multi-view CAD will struggle to understand that that function is gone. So I'm going to use CAD here to kind of have some intelligent insights into my job costing. So right here is my CAD, and what I'm going to do is to add, let's say, for example, I want to have insights on revenue. So I'll choose revenue, kind of drag and drop. That's one option. Another way is to click on it, but when you click on this, it kind of go to this option here. But nonetheless, it's right here under data as well. So one of the things that you find here, the revenue is right here. The system, because it has some level of intelligence, the system recognizes that this type of variable should be sum. There are cases where you think the system will do that, but may not. So in that case, you have to come here and choose the draw down arrow and then choose sum. And then you have the option for average. Now I could add more card. Let's say, for instance, I want to count how many revenue comes. So that gives me constraints about how many customers we sell to. So in that case, I'll add another revenue here, but change that to count or average, or perhaps maybe I'm just looking for average. Right now, what we have is the total revenue of $1.59 million. Now, what about if we're looking at average revenue for the entire period? In that case, I will choose revenue again and add it to this same data. So that basically we add another card. So what I'll do, I'll change this to average. So now you have two cards here. So you see that it functions like multi-view cards. So we have the sum of revenue, we have the average revenue. What about if I was interested in knowing the number of customers that help us to generate the revenue? Again, I added heavy revenue right here, and then I'll change this to count. So we have count here, which means we have about 48 jobs we did during the period of August 2024 to end of July 2025. What about if I wanted to see perhaps the job categories for this? I may add it here. So basically, it's going to show multiple job categories. This itself is not a meaningful information, but could we use this to prepare a bar chart to see how the revenue change differs across the job categories? Yes, we could do that, and we could use any of these visualization to show those options. But again, that's going to be another set of visualization that I'll possibly consider to provide so that you could see how that can be done, showing multiple job categories and revenue across that job category. So now, assuming I am showing that across multiple job categories, I'm going to move away from the view cards, and then I'll move down to either this column charts, cluster column charts, or one of these other options here, which is 100% stack charts. So depending on what chart you preferred, you could go for those charts. So perhaps let me choose these charts right here. I'll choose this one here. And then I have multiple charts. So basically, it makes sense to have your categorical variable in the x-axis, and then you have your continuous variable in the y-axis. If you have your continuous variable in the x-axis, you're probably going to have very subdued information that is really not visualized or not easy to understand. So what I'm doing in this case, I'm going to have my job category in the x-axis, and I'll have my revenue in the y-axis. So we could see IT consulting, custom furniture, home renovation, and quickly others tensor visualization here. May probably just choose to add profits to the same information. Let me say cross reports. So let's move that profit down to actually where you have the X as its output. So it's going to be very little beneath the revenue, which you see here. So what this data tells us is the higher the revenue, the higher the profit. Okay. So kind of give you that general information. We could always extend this. Now, let's say that I do not want to present it this way. We want to report it in a different way. Maybe change it to a different type of report, like a table. Obviously, we could also do that to have that kind of summary statistics or visualization in a form of table. But at this stage, I'll stop at this. Or if you practice this, you know how to do this. You can always manipulate the data to conform to the specific type of reports that you are asked to generate. So, of course, just to give you a quick tip, if you want to try the table out, you have the table function here. So you click on this table function, and then you have this same report generated here, and basically copy this report, and that's all you need. But again, you could also toggle these reports and take away the total, or basically work around this to have a different types of